Ubisoft is one of cloud gaming's biggest supporters, and recently they've been showing a lot of love to Google Stadia. And that's going to be the very subject of today's video. Between this week's Stadia community blog post entirely focused on Ubisoft upcoming titles and updates, and the recent Twitter post they made describing what cloud gaming is to the masses, it's hard to deny the fact that Ubisoft is trying its hardest to push cloud gaming to the forefront most, and they happen to be the biggest third-party publisher in the game doing so. But before we talk about the present day situation and what they're doing for Stadia and all of cloud gaming, we have to kick it all the way back into 2010, because as you may not know, it didn't start with Stadia. You see, back then is when the first major cloud gaming service was introduced, and its name was OnLive. I actually used it myself, so much so that I even had their micro console so I could play OnLive on my TV. The gameplay experience it provided was playable, but that's probably as good as I can speak for it. As you can imagine, there was much more latency than cloud gaming of today. It was a product of its time, but it did make me fall in love with the idea of cloud gaming. It was the first thing to open up my eyes to the convenience factor that it brought with it. And while I won't speak too much about OnLive in this video, simply because that could be a whole other video of its own, I do need to bring it up, because even since back then, Ubisoft was a huge supporter of cloud gaming. Even though OnLive shut down before it could even reach 300 titles on the platform and service, it was really heavily supported by Ubisoft titles. I remember playing the Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia, and Tom Clancy franchises, as well as other big names like Driver and Hawks. Ubisoft was by far the biggest supporter of cloud gaming since 2010, and when we fast forward 12 years into today, nothing's really changed in that front. Ubisoft remains the only major publisher to make sure that all their big releases of the year end up launching on the cloud. Be it Google Stadia, Amazon Luna, or GeForce Now, you can count on Ubisoft to deliver. And it's fair to say that Ubisoft is definitely earning some fans off being this way, because for those who are exclusively cloud gamers, when they see a new Ubisoft title get announced, it's not a question of whether or not it's hitting their cloud service, it's a celebration that a new title is on the way. There's a ton of Stadia fans out there who really swear by Ubisoft nowadays, and I really can't blame them. While the titles may not be for your particular taste, it's hard to deny that Ubisoft has a very consistent output. And then there's the fact that they cover such a wide variety of game genres: first-person shooters, third-person action adventures, sports games, competitive shooters, racing titles, free-to-play games, and games-as-a-service titles. The cloud gaming space is very lucky to have them. Now to talk about this week, as we all know, Ubisoft recently had a Stadia community blog post entirely focused on them. It's far from the first time that they've been featured in such a way, but it is worth noting just how close the ties between Ubisoft and Stadia are. Even back when Stadia was just in closed testing during Project Stream, they were using Assassin's Creed as the title to really showcase what it could do. And then there's the fact that both Google Stadia and Amazon Luna are heavily pushed with their very own Ubisoft Plus subscription. But the latest endorsement comes in the form of a video they posted on Twitter describing what cloud gaming is, its benefits, and where it can lead. I'll put a link to the tweet in the description below for you to check it out for yourself, but it is a video primarily targeted at people who would not know what cloud gaming is or the benefits it can bring. It is worth pointing out that throughout the video, there is a Stadia highlight that does get shown. And while I do think Ubisoft supports all of cloud gaming, I certainly think they're a bit closer to Stadia than the rest. Even when you go to the Ubisoft Plus webpage, you'll notice that Stadia gets the only billing when it says play from the cloud. And even when you go to the games list, Stadia is the only one that shows up next to PC. And while I don't think this is going to lead to any sort of Stadia exclusive content, I certainly think that they're working closely together. Maybe even more so than other cloud gaming platforms and services. But now let's focus a bit about the future and talk about the Ubisoft games that are on the way. Now, interestingly enough, Ubisoft is taking quite a turn when it comes to the type of games they're making. Recently, they're experimenting a lot with free-to-play titles. As of right now, they did release and close down Hyperscape. It was their entry to the Battle Royale genre, which didn't see much success. But clearly, that's not enough to dissuade Ubisoft from trying. There are at least 3 other free-to-play games coming out from them directly. First up is Ghost Recon Frontline, which is a free-to-play tactical action massive PvP Battle Royale shooter. From everything we've seen of this title so far, it's easy to see just how heavily it's been inspired by Warzone and PUBG. And speaking for myself here, I think it definitely has an uphill battle to climb. The Battle Royale space on PC is pretty much dominated by Fortnite, Warzone, and to an extent PUBG. But it is worth pointing out that this is their second attempt, and maybe they've learned something from Hyperscape and are implementing it here. Next up is another first-person shooter that's definitely aiming at the COD crowd, and that's Tom Clancy's X-Defiant. It's a fast-paced arena shooter that combines intense gunplay with personalized loadouts and specialized factions. Its classes are based on characters from all over the Tom Clancy universe. Competitive gameplay is key here, and it seems to be a heavy focus for the dev team as they continue to work on it. It is worth noting, out of the 3 games I'm going to discuss in the free-to-play section, this one seems to be the one that's been most publicly shared so far. Their last free-to-play entry that's currently in the works is for The Division Heartland, and from what I've gathered, this is more of a play on the survival genre. As of right now, there's very little known about this game officially from Ubisoft, but if I had to take a guess, it's probably aiming at that Tarkov audience. I feel like the franchise itself and the gameplay style of the Dark Zone really could lean into that pretty nicely. And while there's no official platforms announced for this game, it is worth pointing out that when you register for closed beta access, Stadia is an option here. But outside of those Ubisoft free-to-play titles, there is another big AAA upcoming game, and that's Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Very little is known about this game, but we do know that it's only targeting next-gen consoles, PC, and then Stadia and Luna. More than likely, GeForce Now will get access through the PC version, but I do think it'll be interesting to see how Stadia and Luna fare here. From what was shown at E3, it looks beautiful, but until we see gameplay, I'm gonna hold my reservations on the graphics being that good. But now let's move on to the rumors and speculated games that may release on the cloud. First up is Assassin's Creed Infinity, which is supposed to be the next evolution of Ubisoft's most successful franchise. Everything that's been rumored so far about it is that it's gonna be their take on a live service game for the Assassin's Creed universe. It is supposed to still be years away, and there are supposed to be other Assassin's Creed games in between now and then, but it will be interesting to see what this is all about once it's finally shown. It seems to be a major shift for the Assassin's Creed franchise. A game that we haven't heard too much on since it was announced is Beyond Good and Evil 2. Rumors around it currently suggest that they're having some issues with development, and sadly, it's not the only Ubisoft title that's rumored to have this issue going on. Skull and Bones was another title that was revealed quite a while ago, and sadly, it's been pretty silent on that front as well. The last official update came in September 2020, where apparently they were in full swing with a new vision. Oddly enough, there is supposed to be a Skull and Bones TV show that's currently also in the works. The last title I want to mention here is one that hasn't been fully confirmed coming to the cloud, and that's Roller Champions. It certainly seems much smaller in scale, but this one has been having closed tests, and it seems to be going fairly well based on community feedback. I'm actually really hoping this one ends up finding its way over because it looks like a ton of fun. And that pretty much covers the future of what we can look forward to so far. As you can see, Ubisoft is a company that's really been supporting cloud gaming from the very start. They also have a ton of projects in the works that cloud gamers can really look forward to. And look, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I love every single title that Ubisoft pushes out, but as a cloud gamer, I'm certainly happy they exist. Let me know your thoughts on Ubisoft and the cloud gaming space down below, I'd love to hear them. But with that, we're gonna wrap up this video. If you enjoyed it at all or found it helpful, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out. And if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. As always, this has been the Virtual Cloud, giving you the latest and greatest on everything cloud gaming related, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.